Reshma Saujani, and my book is called Pay Up: The Future of Women in Work and Why It's Different Than You Think. The book is a manifesto about how to make workplaces finally work for women. Right now, it feels like there's never been a worse time to be a working woman. From our reproductive rights, from the economic situation to our mental health, we have been crushed. And our workplaces have not been working for women. They never have. And if you believe that you should never waste a good crisis, this is the exact moment to make workplaces finally work for women. I wrote the Marshall Plan for Moms because you saw in the early pandemic that almost 12 million women were pushed out of the workforce. And the vast majority of those were working moms. Moms were finding that they had to essentially switch their paid labor for unpaid labor. So they were forced to either downshift or leave their jobs because they were homeschooling their kids and because daycare centers were shut down and they no longer could bring in, grandparents or caretakers into the home because of the global pandemic. And so the economic crisis that women were facing was an economic crisis that moms were facing. And to really focus on the impact of motherhood on our economy, on our country, was important. No, it hasn't. I mean, working from home has not been liberating for moms at all times, I would say, right? In many ways, because working moms during the pandemic were the ones that were doing the homeschooling. They were the ones that were doing all of the unpaid labor at home. I'm a CEO, but in between every Zoom call, I was doing the laundry, making sure that lunch was put on the table, making sure that my son had logged into school. All of that cognitive labor, all of that caretaking was being done by women. Women are twice as likely to be caretakers and be doing the child caring and the homeschooling than men. That has been proved out through every survey. And so, in fact, there was no separation, right, between home and work. And so more things piled up on women's to-do list. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I think you had a lot more empathy from employers, when your kid Zoom bombed your call, right? Or you needed more flexibility. But I feel like a lot of that empathy, a lot of that understanding is gone because there's this anxiousness with employers that they just want, things to get back to the way that it was, which means that we want working moms back in the office like they were before. I would say that there's more rage from working moms. I mean, the recent jobs report came out and men were 27% more likely to enter the workforce than women. You still have 1.1 million women that are missing from the workforce. 1 out of 3 working moms are thinking about quitting their jobs. 51% of mothers say that their mental health has actually declined. Women and moms are not okay. And the government has failed us. Build Back Better is basically dead. And what we've learned is this wasn't just a pandemic story. For far too long, we have been juggling too much. We were sold a big corporate lie, which said that we could girl boss our way and lean in our way to the top. And we have always participated in a workforce, not only not built for us, but that has been stacked against us. So I think moms are tired. I think we're burnt out. I think we're angry. Even in this last wave, when schools shut down again and daycare centers were again shut down and people again found themselves scrambling, to work and to take care of their kids. I don't know of a single mother who got a memo from their employer saying, "What do you need? What can I do to help you?" We have got to really push employers to pay up, to do the right thing, to finally make workplaces work for moms. And there's 3 things that I've been, talking about and focused on that I want to bring up here. One is I think that we have an opportunity to finally get employers to start subsidizing childcare. Childcare is not my personal problem. It is an economic issue. And right now, less than 11% of employers subsidize some form of childcare. Study after study, data after data, have shown that the reason why working mothers are not coming back to work is because of childcare. So if employers want to, rein in the talent wars, if they want to bring those talented, diverse women back to the workplace, they have to do something about childcare. Secondly, there's been a lot of conversation about paid leave. But to me, it's the focus needs not to be on just whether a company is offering paid leave or not, but are they actually mandating gender neutral paid leave? Are they actually tying performance and performance reviews to whether men are taking leave? There's been studies that show that 70% of American dads still take only less than 10 days off when they have a child. So many companies I know gaslight men when they actually take leave. So that policy has to change. And finally, we have got to provide support, for mothers' mental health. One of the subgroups that are the most impacted through COVID in terms of their mental health are moms. Moms are not coming back okay. We have got to set up policies in the workplace that account for this and that provide that kind of support for mothers. Our allies are critical in transforming our workplace. Any women's movement needs to have men that are standing side by side, demanding for the same things that we need. At Girls Who Code, 40% of our teachers were men. While moms might have the most to gain by some of the policies that I'm recommending, we all have a stake in creating an equitable, diverse workplace. And especially for the men who are partners at home, we need you. My husband and I, through this book and through this process, have had lots of conversations, right, about what needs to change. I'm the mother of 2 sons, and I want my sons to grow up being caretakers and to not think that caretaking is for the realm of only women. And so I want every man out there to recognize and to understand the world as we live it and to figure out as an ally what they can actually do to get to gender equality at home. And they play a big role. There's no way that we get to gender equality at home without them. I actually don't think that there is much politically divisive about saying that workplaces have never worked for women. I think that you would get a resounding yes. Whether you were a Democrat or Republican, whether you were an hourly employee or a salaried employee, whether you were black, white, gay, straight, trans, we all know, that this is not working for us. And I think COVID exposed that. And I also think for most of us who are mothers, have always had to sacrifice or feel like we've had to sacrifice our motherhood for our job. For a lot of us, we feel like we can't be an ideal worker and an ideal mother at the same time. And that we've learned that like having it all is just a euphemism for doing it all. So I think that there's actually a lot of sisterhood. I think that pay up is a message for all women, regardless of political persuasion. I think we have all recognized, regardless of whether you are an hourly employee or a salaried employee, whether you have resources or don't have resources, every mom I know has been stretched to the max. And I think that there is a lot of cohesion on the fact that something has to be done, that we can't go back to a broken system, and that workplaces were never designed for us. And that if we're not going to waste a good crisis, that this is the moment to demand something from our employers so we don't have to choose between our job and our children. Near-term success looks like organizing women in every single workplace and starting a conversation around pay up, and one, getting women to realize that some people feel like, well, motherhood is a choice, and that you don't get to ask anything from your employer. And recognizing that in the middle of the Great Resignation, in the middle of this talent war, that we have an opportunity to help us and to get support that we need from employers. The opportunity right now for women is to start getting some real structural change. In the near term and the midterm, I would love to ignite a conversation on subsidizing childcare, on getting companies to offer, whether it's backup care, whether it's creating more on-site childcare, whether it's, providing cash subsidies to parents, but start recognizing that childcare is an economic issue. It's not a personal issue. And that offering childcare as a benefit is a way for you to manage your attrition. I think the second thing I want to ignite is a real conversation around mandating paid leave, or making it gender neutral, tying paid leave to performance reviews for men, that recognizing that companies have a role to play in exacerbating gender equality at home. Those first few months when you have a child are so critical to a couple negotiating their to-do list. And so companies can actually help get to gender equality at home by the policies that they set forth. I think the third thing is really igniting a conversation on pay equity. What I learned in this book is that the pay gap is between mothers and fathers. It's not between childless women and childless men. When we see a mom and she has a child, we think that she's less committed. She's less serious about her job, and we pay her less for it. When we see a dad, we think, he needs the support. Let's pay him more. And in many ways, rooting out the motherhood penalty is something that every company has the ability to do. So let's get it done.